start again. It's a rage thing.
The Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain heads to northern France to one of endurance racing's most famous circuits here at the Circuit de la Sarre for round number 5, our special event round here in the Porsche Carrera Cup Esports Great Britain. My name is Connery Maddock. I'm joined by the one, the only Paul Smith for this, well, perhaps a little bit of difference of a broadcast here than what we're used to in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain, because we are here basically, Paul, at the home of endurance racing, but yet this race will feel more like a sprint.
Yeah, although to these drivers it will feel like an endurance race, let's be honest, because we're used to having the 25-minute races. Today, just one 45-minute race for these drivers to contend with, so a little bit different with how you're going to play things, and of course this circuit is synonymous with endurance racing, so of course slipstream is going to be massively key here, especially in the race.
It's going to be absolutely huge. Qualifying has just started. It's going to be a bit of a lengthy qualifying session as well. We've got 40 minutes of open qualifying here, so plenty of time to get those very long lap times in. In practice, they were just over, a couple of seconds over a minute per lap. Of course, that's going to be heavily dependent, like you said, Paul, on the slipstream, and well, for some drivers in this race that's going to be a lot easier to come by, especially in qualifying, than some others, because they have teammates to be able to work with. So like the Red Bull Racing Esports guys, the Apex Racing Team guys, they all actually have a pretty heavy advantage here in qualifying compared to those drivers that are on their own as far as teams are concerned.
If they're doing lap times just over a minute, then I'm impressed around here. It's
well,
4
minutes.
Yeah. Yes, but yeah, it's that Apex Racing Team set of drivers, you know, of Ellis Jr., Jamie Fluke, of John Robertson. They're going to be working together here to try and sort of get themselves up at the front and then work together to try and keep themselves at the front, whereas Job and Carroll, they've got a bit of a task on to try and work their way and work with some of those drivers. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic today, that's for sure.
Let's have a look at the schedule then, because we are basically slap bang in the middle of the season, or rather, into the second half of the season, if you want to look at it that way. So we've had Silverstone, Oulton Park, Donington, and Snetterton, but now we head across the channel to Le Mans for our special event race, 45-minute race. And of course, since it's just a single race, we will be having double points for this event as well, which can be both a blessing and a curse. Imagine if you go out in the early stages here of this race, you don't have another race coming to try and recover, so it's basically like you've gone out in 2 races on the bounce. Yeah,
this can really be a big swing, a big change point of this championship here, and you will see that they will be hoping to get a really good result here today. As you say, double points, it has that double-edged sword of it really sort of affecting you if you do have a bad race, but if you have a good race and you're a bit further down the field, that can really push you up the table.
This season has been all about those 2 top drivers there on that order. Sebastian Job versus Kevin Ellis Jr. They've had some fantastic on-track battles so far this season. There's no reason why that can't continue on here today into Le Mans. We've got Graham Carroll there in 3rd place. Jamie Fluke having at least a positive run in this series in that 4th spot. Jack Sedgwick inside the top 5 as well. But you know, like it has been for the past couple of weeks, past couple of races, the Job versus Ellis Jr. battle at the very top is just going to get a lot more interesting.
Yeah, that's going to come to a head at some point, is that championship battle between those two. We are missing a couple of drivers, which is unfortunate, but you know, that battle at the front though, we've got both the protagonists there out there on track, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the second half of the season comes along now.
Yeah, I am as well. It's not going to be too long before we're actually able to crown a champion, especially if Sebastian Job has a great result here today at Le Mans. If he's able to get you know, the race win, that will do his championship hopes wonders. It might not be signed, sealed, and delivered, of course, but it gives him a lot of confidence coming into those last couple of rounds to be able to put both of his hands on that trophy at the end of the season. So we do have qualifying underway. They are yet to set their first flying laps here. They're just starting to get set up, you know, in their drafting packs, in their drafting trains, to be able to try and get the best lap time here at Le Mans. And that's going to be the important thing, even during the race as well. When you have friends around you that you know, can help slingshot you down the Mulsanne straight, that's really, really going to help. And this race is going to be a lot more strategic in that sense to what we're used to seeing in this series. It's less about outright clear air pace. It's about putting yourself in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this circuit, you've mentioned about how the slipstream is going to be massive here. The run out of Tete Rouge down through the 2 chicanes down the Mulsanne straight, down to Mulsanne corner, and then the run from Mulsanne all the way through to Indianapolis. The fastest part of the track is down into Indianapolis. So again, slipstream can be key there. And then out of Arnage, heading towards Porsche curves as we get to have a look at the track map there. You can see how much of the circuit is flat out, non-stop, just on the throttle 100%. And it's that second part that once you get into Porsche curves, that really just gives you a little bit of twist. It makes you have to work the car. Of course, no open setup. This is a fixed setup series, so every driver has got the exact same car underneath them as their rivals out there.
Yeah, and you know, knowing that it's going to be a lot more difficult for drivers to be able to try and break the draft here. Of course, it is possible. We've seen it even in the Super Cup, and but it's a very, very tough job to do. And if you're not, what, 4/10, half a second faster per lap, then there's going to be absolutely no chance that you'll be able to break the slipstream here. So it looks like we're going to be getting a lot of pack racing here today, which has its own intricacies, of course. Here's how the format for today is going to go. We've already had our 1 hour of warm-up. We're currently in qualifying right now, but no one has set a time just yet. It's 40 minutes of open qualifying here today, and then a 45 minutes race with double points when push comes to shove there. So There we go. That's how today is going to go. Relatively simple in the grand scheme of things. No race 1, race 2, middle of the event break here. It's just the qualifying and the race, as simple as that.
Yeah, they give us plenty to talk there. And speaking of plenty to talk about, Isaac Price going off at Mulsanne corner, so that's not ideal by the looks of things. But yeah, the drivers out there. Well, I mean, you can see the three drivers there: Fluke, Robertson, and Ellis Jr. working together, getting that slipstream. This is that run down to Indianapolis that I was on about then. And they swing around this fast right-hander onto the brakes immediately into the left-hander at Indianapolis. Don't run too far wide, you will lose some time if you go through the gravel. And Arnage, tricky corner. It's a lot tighter than you imagine, and the barrier on the exit comes out to you, so you can't run too far wide. Then you got the run to the beautiful, magnificent, sensational Porsche curves. This is just one of my favourite parts of the track because you are on the limit. Two drivers getting out the way of Ellis Jr. there, so he's on the first lap. They're working together as a team there. You can see they're all in the same livery there, so working together as a team, trying to get Ellis Jr. his fast lap in now. And then what will happen is the car at the back, which is Robertson, I believe, he'll then get his lap, and then it'll be Fluke who gets his lap. So that's how they're working things there between the teammates as they head towards the Ford chicane at the end of the lap. And Ellis Jr., we'll see what type of lap time he does. The Red Bull guys are just ahead of Job and Carroll as well, so they're coming to the final chicane here. So times are coming in now.
Yeah, Kevin Ellis Jr. launching it over the final curb there. Really being aggressive with the circuit, and he does go fastest for now, so these are the first few provisional lap times coming in that are actually representative. So Ellis ahead by 0.8 of a second over Graham Carroll. Then you've got Isaac Price, which is a country mile back, 2 seconds back off the leader. So that's the separation here in qualifying at the moment, but a good baseline for Kevin Ellis Jr. to work off of. That's, of course, if he even gets an opportunity to put another fast lap in, because remember, he has to do the good teammate thing and help out the two cars behind as well. So he might not even get a chance to improve that by the end of this qualifying session.
But it goes to show how strong the double draft is here compared to just a single draft. Now you'll see these drivers doing this all along, running down the centre of the Mulsanne straight. And that's because it's a public road, is this. It's got a crown in the road, so the middle of the road, it's got a crown. And if you run over the middle of that road, the road actually is closer to the bottom of your car than if you were to drive one side or the other of that crown. So it just gives you a tiny little bit of aerodynamic advantage. And that's why you'll see all these drivers running smack dab in the middle of the road down the Mulsanne straight.
Yeah. Like I said, basically just artificially reducing the ride height and the straight line speeds. So, and that's what all that matters here at the Mulsanne. You just gotta go as fast as possible down into these chicanes, and we continue to ride on the roof cam of Sebastian Job here. What's benefiting him right now is not only has he got his teammate of Graham Carroll ahead of him, but a bit further down the road, Blair Mann. Maybe not as closely packed as the Apex guys were, but he's still going to be feeling some slight double toe at this stage, so I guess he'll take that.
Oh yeah, you take whatever you can get round here, that's for sure. And this is another reason why we've got the longer qualifying here as well, because 20 minutes, well, you wouldn't have enough time with the normal qualifying session around this track to really set many laps here, whereas with 40 minutes it gives you time to be able to get a couple of fast laps in, work together with other people to try and help them get their time. So this is where you're seeing those tactics coming into play. And right now we've heard from, we know what Graham Carroll is doing. He's just wanting to play rear gunner for Sebastian and help him get another championship under his belt.
Yeah, that's the objective. Carroll, well, quite, despite being in that third spot at the moment is still quite far adrift of Job in terms of points, so he won't be fighting his teammate for the championship, I suspect, coming towards the end of the season. But everything can change, and everything can change very, very quickly in motorsports and in sim racing. Of course, I wonder if we'll get to see the same swap around before the Porsche Curves like we saw with the Apex guys. Yes, we will. So Job is able to get his way through, but I don't think Blairman will give him the space to be able to go through on him as well. So he's just going to have to sit up behind here, just in that slight bit earlier. Ooh, Blairman just clipping the wall. He's going to slow up in the middle of the Porsche Curves here, and
he's got out
is
the
Job
way.
impeded? I'm not sure.
I think he just got out the way in time. I think Job will have been okay with that. I managed to avoid getting slowed up there. Fortunately, in the Porsche Curves, you can give that space if you need to. Oh, there's Isaac Price just getting prepared for the start of a lap. Carroll goes to the pit, so he wants some new tyres. He's letting Sebastian finish his lap here. What will Sebastian do as he goes across the line now? And the answer is a 4:03.252 to the top of your standings.
Well, great work there from the Red Bull Racing Esports guys. Here comes Apex Racing Team, the group of three heading their way across now. That was Jamie Fluke's lap time, I believe. So that puts him up into P3. Still 0.6 of a second adrift of Sebastian Job, though. So despite having a more consistent three-car pack here with the Apex guys, it doesn't seem like they're able to get that extra 1/10 of a second to be able to get past Job.
You think with a track like this, the slipstream will gain you so much time. Yes, it gains you so much. But when you get to those chicanes, having a clean run through the chicanes, having a clean run out of Mulsanne corner, out of Arnage, through the Porsche curves and the Ford chicane at the end of the lap, that's more important because you can lose more time through those corners than you can gain through slipstream. So you still have to get things right on your lap. You have to be perfect.
Yeah. You know, where the track is driver dependent, you still need to absolutely perfect those pieces of circuit, and that's just an example. You know, you got to get a clean run through the chicanes there, and you know, a 10th loss there is going to exacerbate the problem coming down the straight as well for John Robertson. I don't think this is his lap time right now because Kevin S. Jr. is actually parked up right behind him, so they might be giving Ellis another shot at going for pole position here. John Robertson's going to go all the way to the inside and release Kevin Ellis Jr. here. So I think Apex is just trying to, you know, shuffle their drivers amongst each other, and that's not going to be a valid lap time there for Kevin Ellis Jr. He goes very, very wide, so I think that's a 1x for him. So yeah, they're not quite able to organize themselves here, are they?
I don't know if you will actually get an instant point. You sort of pushed it to the limit there. It's more about the slowdown penalties around here than actually getting instant points in this circuit. It's quite unique as Le Mans on the iRacing service, but it's very difficult to actually pick up instant points. And so these drivers will be pushing those track limits to the absolute limit and going all the way to the edges as far as possible. But here comes Robertson again, and he's just going to sit behind Kevin, and that will actually be benefiting Kevin a little bit by having John right up behind him, because it helps the airflow off of his car over the car behind to help reduce the drag a little bit.
Yeah, you don't even have to make contact with the rear bumper to be able to get that effect. You just got to press into the bubble, so to speak, and you know, then the air just treats both your cars as one single long car, which is slightly more aerodynamic than just the single car. So that's aerodynamics 101 there, I think, from me. I don't have a very full understanding of how the intricacies of how the physics work, but yeah, it's an effect that does happen. But maybe not as common in road racing as it is maybe in some oval series.
I need to get my buddy Adrian Newey on the blower, just to get a bit of a quick aerodynamics lesson from him. But yeah, clambering over the curb there, the Ellis Jr. through the Porsche curves, that's not ideal. Through karting then, which is this little right-left here, and then heading towards the Ford chicane at the end of the lap. So, yeah, they're deciding that we're not going to get a lap time here. Let's get into the pits, get some fresh rubber on those tyres, and then come out and try and push on. So we're seeing a lot of people now getting pit stops and trying again, basically resetting almost halfway through the qualifying.
Yeah, and that makes sense considering, like you said, we are now halfway through the session, so pit lane is a pretty busy place at the moment. There are still some cars out there all on their lonesome. Liam McNinch here, heading his way through the Mulsanne chicane. Someone's into the wall in the background. That's the number 64 car of, who is that? That is going to be Craig Williams. That's had a problem there, so he's going to have to take the tow back to pit lane. And a lot of these cars are the drivers that basically only have themselves out there, and right now they're trying to lap on their own, which definitely isn't the fastest way to go around. You got to make some probably temporary friends out there to be able to go to get the same drafting opportunities as some of the teammates do.
I mean, you look at, I'm just looking at the qualifying times. The first four are within a second, and then Isaac Price is 2.17 off of your pole position. He's a former World Championship driver, is Isaac, on iRacing, so he's working on his own. Jamie Moon's 2.7. You know, the spread, the field spread here, because of not being able to get that slipstream, really does have a massive effect around here. So you got to try and buddy up, try and form some allegiances. It's almost like a Royal Rumble. Get yourself a partner to help get the other one out, and then you can fight for yourself again.
Hey Paul, it's Valentine's Day. You start talking about partners, so that's quite fitting, I suppose. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. 14th of February today, and well, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're going to be enjoying the sim racing that we have to offer here. We've still got about 20 minutes of qualifying left, and then of course we'll be moving on to our 45-minute special event race, double points, a lot of, well, on-track strategy, shall we say. Should be a very fun thing indeed, but, you know, we're still very much undecided as far as our grid goes here today. A couple of drivers that haven't set qualifying times just yet, because you might be wondering, oh, why are there only 14 cars on the timing tower there? Well, those that don't set lap times don't actually get a place on the timing tower. So we're still waiting for Craig Williams to set a time, Simeon Lynch to set a time. Matt Emery and William Martin are also yet to set a lap time as well. But we're seeing, like you said, Paul, we are seeing a very large spread in terms of the lap times here.
Yeah, and I think you could just see it there on that left-hand side timing tower of how you go from that 1 second gap to jumping up into seconds behind. But it always looks worse here because of the length of the track and because of the length of the lap. It just exacerbates what the gap is normally. Simeon Lynch getting a lap time into 11th place, but it always exacerbates that gap there. Ooh, Ox break there from Sebastian Job.
Oh, he's out.
And he's gone off into the gravel, yeah.
Yeah, so that won't be great for Graham Carroll's chances.
Well, Graham Carroll's not too bad because he has got Isaac Price in front of him, so he'll still be getting a slipstream here.
Yeah, maybe not as much as he would having Seb in front of him, but it's not a ruined lap time, I would say. But let's see how close Graham Carroll can get the cars ahead of him. That's Kevin Else Jr. and Jamie Fluke in terms of the standings at the end of this lap, because Joe would very much like some help at the very pointy end of things when it comes to the race. Coming through Arnage now, getting the back end out and continuing to lock onto the back of Isaac Price. And I think Isaac's just going to step out of the way on the way in towards Indianapolis, Bourges in just a couple of moments. So
yeah, Isaac's on an out lap there, so he's getting out of the way. Job was on an out lap as well, it's worth pointing out. So Graham, he's on a hot lap. This is his lap here. Whereas the others, they were just on out laps. But this is the part of the track where it doesn't matter about that slipstream. And so Graham, yeah, he's doing a good job now. He'll hope to finish off this lap well.
Yeah, so aiming to start on the front row with Sebastian Job. Yeah, it does seem like he's backed off here, and I'm seeing Sebastian Job close in on him at a rate of knots. There he goes on the left-hand side, and they will reset everything. Even Isaac Price nips in there to snag the spot behind Job before Graham Carroll could really do anything about that. But across the line they come, so no competitive lap times for any of these guys heading their way across the line now, but they still have about 17.5 minutes left to go in this session, so still plenty of time to be able to get things organised and sorted. We haven't seen much movement there at the very front of the qualifying order at the moment. It seems like a lot of those fast lap times came in early on. And I gotta say, the track temp has climbed 2 degrees Celsius since the very start of the session as well. It currently sits at 42 degrees here. It doesn't matter as much at this circuit, but it's still the thing to keep in mind because, you know, over the course of 40 minutes, the track temp can change quite a bit.
It certainly can, and it does have an effect on the grip that these drivers have through the corners. Just a couple of people out on the outlaps at the moment, Jamie Moon and also Bart Horston and Liam Ninch on outlaps. Everyone else are on hot laps here, so they're all trying to get themselves improvement time. But yes, that track temperature, it can have all the difference because of the slightly less grip that you will achieve from a hotter track surface. It will just not help. With track temperature, you sort of reach a plateau when it comes to temperature, and then anything higher than at that point, it then drops off again, does the grip. So these drivers, they'll be hoping that they can still keep it within the feeling that they get in these cars and these tyres. Right now, just a little bit loose there was Robertson into the first of those Mulsanne straight chicanes.
Yeah, seems like a couple of drivers are struggling in terms of the grip here. I've seen a lot of cars actually step out coming through the exits of the corners as well. It's a very tricky car to drive, of course, but you know, the track temps seemingly don't help, and of course you need in an ideal world, you'll want a very specialized setup here at Le Mans, but of course everyone's on the fixed setup, so you can't really tweak things to try and get a little bit better straight line speed here in this situation. And again, maybe a little bit of a messed up line there from John Robertson coming through one of the Mulsanne chicanes. Kevin S. Jr. a little bit closer now on the run down towards Mulsanne corner itself. And again, the main thing for these 3 cars at the moment is they haven't really been able to work as that cohesive unit just yet, and we're on board with John Robertson right now, but I'm interested in what's going on behind him because Kevin S. Jr. is closed up right towards the rear bumper, and he's going to have to make his way past now. Yeah,
Robertson's not really been able to get himself a really hot lap here. He's only got himself a 4 minutes 5.9. Compare that to Ellis Jr.'s 4 minutes 3.3. So he's really struggling to get a lap time in here, and I think he's in danger of getting lost in the shuffle of his 2 compatriots in the same team. Fluke getting loose there through the right-hander in towards Indianapolis. It's a big hat-and-mouth moment, is that, actually. Doing quite some speed there.
Yeah, we really are, and a little bit of cloud cover has come in, which will allow the track temp just to cool marginally, and it's coming up to the point in the track where you really need the track to be a little bit cooler to help the tyres, and that's going to be coming through the Porsche curve. So this has been timed quite well here for Cameron Harris Jr. You want to get every single little advantage possible, and he will be let go there by John Robertson coming into the Porsche curve. So this is another fast lap here for Kevin Ellis Jr., a 4:03.252 to beat. That was Sebastian Job's first lap time of this qualifying session, and Kevin Ellis Jr. looking to try and surpass that one. Now careful on the exit there because there's a slowdown penalty out there if you go too far. And now heading on the way down in towards the final 2 chicanes. Saw Graham Carroll actually get himself up into 3rd place here And you can see how Kevin's attacking both of these curbs, well, all 4 of these curbs there, launching it over the final one. Careful not to dip 2 tyres into the gravel. Drive to the line, and what's the lap time going to be?
Wow.
It is a 4:03.096. That is a blistering lap time from Kevin Ellis Jr. That is 1.5 tenths of a second faster than what Job was able to manage.
Yeah, so the track temperature's not affecting them too much, still able to improve. You were quite right in saying Carroll moved up as well, so those improvements still coming here as, in fact, we'll look at the Scotsman and the Englishman. That's Sebastian Job and Graham Carroll, so one giving a draft to the other. And you can see communicating with each other. They don't just wear those headsets to look good, they actually use them for communication. And right into the first Mulsanne. Now I would say that Sebastian is too close at this point of the lap to utilise Graham for the full point all the way down to Porsche curves. He's going to have to move over.
Yeah, he's going to have to get past here, down into the second, down into Kane here in just a couple of moments' time, and then Graham Carroll's going to have to make his way back through, perhaps on the way into Mulsanne. So maybe not the optimal way to be able to manage the slipstream here, but they'll take what they can get. They've got a third party looking to get themselves involved here as well. That one is going to be it's Bart Holston. Yeah, Bart Holston on the back of this as well. So he's getting the double toe off the 2 Red Bull Racing Esports cars.
Of course, Bart Holston, the Formula 3 Championship driver, the BRDC Formula 3 Championship. So he's not averse to getting a slipstream and making it work and trying to get everything out of qualifying. Oh, saying that, he goes off a little bit wide at Mulsanne corner, so easily done there to dip tyres into the gravel, so he's lost out on that one. But yeah, Sebastian, it's not quite working out for him this time on this run here.
No, it's not, and you can see how Carroll's decided to bump draft him on the way in towards the Mulsanne corner. I guess there are multiple ways to skin a cat in terms of going fast down the straights, I suppose. But into the left now of, rather that was in towards Indianapolis. So now in towards Arnage. And again, it is still Sebastian Job ahead, so he will have no slipstream on the way into the Porsche curves this time around. And I think Carroll will just let him go in terms of this one, because you don't want to make it side by side through the Porsche curves. That is definitely not the fastest way to go through that sequence of corners. They have completely dropped Bart Holston, though. Of course, Bart making that mistake just a couple of moments ago certainly hasn't helped things in terms of his efforts with keeping inside the double toe.
We're into the final quarter of qualifying here as well, under 10 minutes. So time starting to run out for these drivers. If they come in, Seb sliding the back end there. If they come into the pits now, they're only going to get 1 lap. So they need to decide who it is that's going to get that 1 lap if they do come on pit road.
It's going to be Seb for sure. And they do dive down on towards pit lane. So Red Bull Racing Esports cars in, and they will take the 1 out lap and then the 1 flying lap to be able to finish off this session. Here's the Apex pack, as I'm now going to be calling it for the rest of the session. They're continuing to log the laps here, but again, they still haven't made much progress. You know, even Graham Carroll in his single car draft was able to surpass both Fluke and Robertson. So again, that might be a little bit of a problem. Fluke, very sketchy coming through the final corner. Across the line he goes. He does improve position, and he gets up above Sebastian Job as well. So only 68 thousandths of a second off of Ellis. That's more like it from Apex.
Yeah, and Jamie Fluke showing his touring car background there from when he used to race in Touring Car Series online. So yes, he really clattered those curbs, and you've got to be aggressive with the forward chicane there. But the problem is with those curbs, if you hit them wrong, you can actually damage the underside of your car, and that will slow you down these straights. So you really, it's almost a little bit of a fine line as to whether you get this, carry the speed through the corner, or whether you cause damage to your car.
Yeah, you gotta really, you know, sort of walk the tightrope in terms of that. But having a look at the number 56 car out there, that is Liam McNinch, who's getting a bit of slipstream off the car ahead. That's Jamie Moon further down the road, but not going to be much of one though from that far back. But he'll take everything he can get, especially since he's one of these solo driver team competitors in this series. This is probably the toughest round for those guys out of every single one, because you're more relying on everyone else around you rather than your own skill.
Yeah, you've got to rely on that on the ability of other people to stay on track and be able to keep their pace up, so that you can keep your pace up here, and that's what we're seeing right now. But yeah, on board, using that slipstream again, using that centre line that everybody is using here. And as I say, this is the fastest part of the track, then keep it absolutely flat out. You're going to be on the you're going to have to be on the limiter, the throttle 100% of the way into Indianapolis, using all of the curb and all of the road. You've got to be careful with this curb here on the entry to Arnage, because it can actually just throw your car a little bit wide there. We've seen incidents happen on that curb a few times, so definitely we will see what's happening. But we are heading towards the Porsche curves now, and both of these drivers are staying on their laps here. They're both on hot laps. They both want to get a good time here. You are watching qualifying, by the way, everybody. Hello everyone watching this one, and I hope you're enjoying the show. We've got a 45-minute race coming up in just a few moments time, but these drivers try to get themselves the best place in the queue for the slipstream, and they're both back out of it. That surprises me.
Yeah, that surprises me as well. And what's this? On the way down into the chicanes, no one wants the lead coming into the chicanes, because each of these cars want the slipstream for the final lap of qualifying. Remember, when time expires, yeah, that is it. You don't get the extra time to be able to complete your lap. So it was a disagreement there between the two drivers about who's going to get the draft for the final lap here. So again, a little interesting predicament between two non-team drivers. Of course, you know, it's a similar situation to what we see at Monza a lot in qualifying sessions in different series. It's like, no, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first.
Yeah, it can get a little bit silly. Trying to hold back, waiting for a draft. It did surprise me with McNinch, because I thought he was actually on an alright lap there, but decided that it was best to actually bail out of it. Obviously wasn't going any faster. He was Blair Mann, 8th place. We've been quietly impressed with Blair, haven't we, this season?
Yeah.
Given a good showing out there. Not had everything go 100% the way, but still putting on a good performance.
I'm seeing a lot of congestion around Sebastian Job at the moment. He's currently coming through the final two chicanes. They're just trying to get organised. I think Bart Horston wanted to slip in behind the two Red Bull Racing Esports cars, and he goes wide. So this might mean that Sebastian Job is basically on his own as far as, well, I was going to say on his own as far as team is concerned, but it looks like Carroll has been able to get ahead of him. It's just that those Red Bull Racing Esports cars were just held up a little bit by other cars trying to capitalise on their own speed, trying to get behind them. Yeah,
Fraser Williamson taking advantage of Horston's little mistake on the exit of the final chicane, and that's allowed him to try and tag on to the back of Sebastian Job. He'll be throwing out an invisible hook there, trying to hook onto the back of his car to try and get dragged along. Here we are. I mean, Horston's already semi out of control there through the middle of the chicane. That's not an ideal line. You don't need to be a racing driver or a brain surgeon to be able to see that that's not the ideal way through that corner. And then Fraser Williamson took advantage of that and jumped him in the queue, but they're not quite keeping up with Sebastian here, and in fact Fraser has backed out and finished it.
Yeah, so all of that confusion coming through the final two chicanes, all for nothing, as far as those two cars were concerned. So it was just a little bit of a headache that both of these cars had to deal with, Sebastian Job, Graham Carroll. Of course, Carroll towing Job around the circuit here. This is the final lap they'll get to do, because, like I said, once the time expires here in qualifying, that is going to be it. You don't get the extra time to be able to complete your final qualifying lap. So the session will switch over once the clock hits 0. And what's the situation here? Job lifts out on the way into the braking zone for one of the Mulsanne chicanes here. He's going to carry a lot more speed through, though, with a better line. So I'm very interested to see how this one turns out, because it's all about, being the right distance back coming off the corner to be able to use the slipstream to its full advantage before the braking zone on the next.
Yeah, you can almost trip over each other here. They'll have been practicing this more than actually than the practice of the race. So they'll be, because they know how important it is to work together in qualifying to get that slipstream. So they'll have been practicing this quite a lot. Those two cars not close enough to affect them, so they can concentrate, can Carroll and Job, on that. Fluke, by the way, he's not going to finish any more laps. Ellis Jr. and John Robertson are still out there on track at the moment. But there goes Job, past the Scotsman Graham Carroll.
Yep, so Job will be released into Indianapolis. Get that car slowed down on camber, left-hander. Care for the gravel on the outside. Ooh, he's risking invalidating his lap there, but I think everything's okay. He hasn't slowed up immediately here. But that was a bit of a panic there for Sebastian Job. You can see he's still communicating with his teammate, trying to organize things. Maybe having a little bit of a joke as well from that little smile there. And Carroll...
Yeah, they're done qualifying. With the way that Carroll's behaving there, I don't know whether they've done it. I would have thought with Job going that far into the gravel, it would have invalidated his lap. So I'm not too sure whether he'll get this lap in.
Yeah, a lot of talking, not a lot of focusing, and sometimes that's the sign that they're not completely into this final sector of the lap. Again, very, very careful with the exit there. 25 seconds left remaining here in this one before we get confirmation that our grid is set for the 45-minute race. Sebastian Job into the chicanes for the final time here, and well, we're not expecting a valid lap, but we will be surprised if there is one. But now, coming across the start-finish line is the lap valid for Sebastian Job. That one's going to be a no, and he will remain in P3 as the checkered flag comes out.
Matt Emery, great time right at the death there.
Yeah, and actually, I'm seeing remaining time left on the clock, so maybe, just maybe, they've changed the settings here for this session, and they actually will be able to finish the lap. So we're not quite done yet. That fooled our director as well. So we'll have to look back at the action here. Of course, usually in this series, once the qualifying clock expires, then that is it. But not so here at Le Mans. So that's a little bit of a change. So these Apex guys will actually be able to get another lap in with Kevin Ellis Jr. still on the back of them. So on the back of this train, he doesn't even need to go even faster here. But well, there we go.
Now Ellis Jr. I believe has actually done his flying laps. I don't think he's on a valid lap now. But John Robertson, who's in 6th place, he is on a flying lap. Jamie Fluke's actually come out the pits in front of him to try and give him a bit of a tow here. So, yeah, let's see what happens here, because Robertson is staying on it right now.
Yeah, the ideal situation here for Apex would be 1, 2, 3, and they've got 2 of those 3 at the moment. So if they can get John Robertson up into P3, that will set themselves up very well for the race, as Kevin Ellis Jr. is out, well, off and not quite out into the gravel.
Oh, Robertson's parking it.
There we go. So it's not going to be a 1, 2, 3 for Apex Racing Team here in this one. They will abandon their final qualifying laps, and Sebastian Job and Graham Carroll also abandoned their laps as well, so I don't think things are going to change at the very front of the order, or indeed throughout the rest of the order, because everyone is now down on towards pit lane. We've still got 4 minutes of remaining time here, so it's going to be a while before we switch over into the race session proper. But given the situation, that one took us by surprise, and I wouldn't be surprised if it took some of the drivers by surprise as well, Paul.
I mean, it's so just to explain to people what's happened here. Normally, what we have is that we use iRacing's heat racing system in this championship. Now, with that heat racing system, when the clock strikes 0 in qualifying, that is it. That's the end of it. But because this is a one-off single race, you've not got that heat racing set up, so therefore you have got this cooldown time at the end of qualifying, which you normally wouldn't have, which is potentially to the advantage of these drivers, but they'll have, the majority of them had already finished their laps and were in the back of the pits by the time the checkered flag came out, so it's not really affecting them, but it does mean that we've got a bit of time to kill.
Yep, it does. We will actually have around about, well, just under 3 minutes here, just to have a little bit of a chat about what we've seen. So great job from the Apex Racing team guys to be able to get at least 2 of their free cars up inside the podium spots. Kevin Nash Jr. and Jamie Fluke will be the front row lockout for them. So that is going to be great prospects for Kevin Nash Jr. coming into this. Apex will be able to control things from the front somewhat, and it's always beneficial to have that advantage, but you of course have that duo of Sebastian Job, Graham Carroll on that exact row behind. So things are going to potentially, might get a little bit messy here at the front.
And look who's with them as well. Isaac Price, 5th place. He's been slowly getting better, more slowly getting back into the feel of this style of driving here. It's been a while since he's been on iRacing, as we were saying before the start of the season. So really good to see him coming back and to getting that speed back. He's not quite got that edge that those front 4 have, but he is getting there.
Yep, the race control actually reminding the drivers right now that there will be a sort of post-race instant limit set. So if drivers get over 20 incidents during the race, then they'll be susceptible to time penalties. But the penalties won't be applied by the iRacing system in the race, because we can see that the instant limit in the session is actually unlimited. So that will all be done post-race via time penalties. But again, like you said during qualifying, it's the slowdown penalties here that really hurts rather than the instant points. So I don't think we'll be seeing anyone get anywhere close to that.
I'll tell you, the worst one to get on lap 1 is on the exit of Tete Rouge, because if you run too far wide on the exit of Tete Rouge, you will get a slowdown penalty. And how iRacing works out a slowdown penalty is it normally takes an average of your lap times, and then of your sector times, sorry, and then gives you a penalty to go against that. Well, at the start of the race, lap 1, you don't actually have a best sector time yet, so it just puts in an arbitrary number, and it is brutal around here. The drivers will be paranoid against getting that, because you will be at the back of the field and you will be on your own. You'll be out of the draft, no doubt about it.
Yeah, no matter if you're in the very front of the field, if you're P1 and you get the slowdown penalty, then it's all the way to the back, and like you said, with no draft as well, so that's just going to add insult to injury as far as that slowdown penalty on the first lap is concerned. We're about 10 seconds away from getting ourselves into the race session here. 45 minutes of racing here at the circuit to the south. Double points are in effect as well, and well, this is where the championship could potentially change if one of those championship contenders has a particularly poor day. So it's Sebastian Job, Kevin Nash Jr., who are your main contenders. Of course, Graham Carroll is on the outside looking in as far as the championship is concerned, but we can bring you the starting grid here today for our special event race at the Circuit de las Salves. Kevin Ellis Jr. on pole position for this one, with Jamie Fluke also on that front row. And there we go. We get the graphics ready. So Sebastian Job and Graham Carroll making Red Bull Racing Esports row number 2 with Isaac Price and John Robertson bringing things down to P6. Jamie Moon in P7 with Matt Emery in P8. Blair Mann further back in P9. Matthew Dorrington starts inside the top 10. Fraser Williamson, the Scot, starts in P11. Bart Horston, P12 here today. P13 goes to Semyon Lynch with Liam McNinch starting in 14th. We've got Ryan Parkins on the 15th grid spot, Rafael Drage in 16th, and then 2 cars that did not set qualifying times, and I don't think Craig Williams is going to start the race either, considering he's not in the session. We've got William Martin at the very back of the grid in P18, but I don't think Craig is in any rush to try and get to the very the start of this one. He is connected to the session, but he might not even take the start here. We'll just have to wait and see, but we've got a minimum of, well, now 0 seconds before the race starts. So here we go then. The special event here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain round number 5 at Le Mans starts now. We get the green flag here in northern France. You can see still, well, already shuffling at the very front of the field. Jamie Fluke trying to fall in line behind his teammate, but that lane's being blocked by Sebastian Job at the moment. Sebastian looking for P2 on the way into Dunlop for the first time on the inside line, and he's still trying to fight it out with Jamie Fluke. Fluke's not giving up this one easily, and it allows Kevin S. Jr. to try and get a gap here on the way in towards Tetraroos, but it's not going to be anywhere near enough to be secure from the draft.
Through the S's they go, and yeah, Job crucially getting ahead then of Jamie Fluke. He wants to minimise any points gain that Kevin Ellis Jr. gets here, but right now Ellis Jr. is in the worst place he can be in because he's right at the front of that queue. He's creating the draft all the way.
Oh.
As we've got a car in the wall. That was Rafael Drage who ended up in the wall. That looked like a more of a technical problem rather than any sort of contact.
Yeah, and you can see him right at the back of the shot starting to fall away, and, well, Sebastian Job second in line in this train. He split up the Apex Racing Team 1-2 that we had at the very start. But it's going to be a long, long race here. 45 minutes of pack racing here at the Circuit of the South. And, you know, it's a very thinking person's race, I would say. Sebastian Job, he has to be finding himself in the right place at the right time. He might not even want to lead at this stage in the race. So he's going to lift out and let Kevin keep the race lead, but he's got to be careful of all those drivers behind, especially Jamie Fluke, who have been making his life difficult for sure, just to give Kevin a little bit of breathing room.
Well, this is it. Sebastian's got a very difficult spot here right now because he wants to sit behind Kevin pretty much for the entirety of the race here, but he's got Jamie Fluke right behind who will be wanting to get in front of Sebastian. So he's got to defend from behind, but also not really attack in front. It's a really tricky play to play here as they're into Mulsanne corner for the first time. We've had some battling further back, but everybody's kind of... we've got 3 sort of falling off at the back there of McNinch, Williams and Martin, but everybody else is staying in this queue at the moment.
It's all going to be about how long this queue can keep itself together. Like I said, we see a couple of cars starting to fall off already, but you know, as long as you keep yourself in this train, there's no limit to how high up the standings you can go. Let me tell you that, because you could just slipstream from one car to the other, to the other, to the other, and at some point you might even find yourself in the race lead, which is why, you know, this sort of racing is pretty exciting at times, especially coming into the final couple of laps, because you just don't know who's going to win.
It's like super speedway racing, isn't it? It's just, you know, get yourself in the draft, work it, just be patient, don't work the tyres too much, get yourself in a good position for the end of the race, and then make your move. But Fluke just dropped back a little bit out of Arnage compared to Job then, so not the best run out of there, but they're heading towards the Porsche curves now, and this is where mistakes can happen. We've seen already in qualifying just how close they get to the wall, and in fact how people can actually hit the wall around there, so you've got to be careful throughout the entirety of this race. But right now, the front two, are we going to have one of those ding-dong battles that we've been getting all the way through the season between Ellis and Joe?
I don't think we can get this early into the race, but you know, if they're in the same piece of real estate as each other coming into the final couple of laps, then that'll certainly happen. And you know, it's given us a big injection of excitement through the... Oh, someone's got a slowdown penalty.
Fraser Williamson.
Yeah, Fraser Williamson, and that counts as a first lap slowdown penalty, I'm afraid, because he wouldn't have any final sector time. So that's going to be hurting quite a lot there for Fraser Williamson as he has
Matt
to cycle
Emery
all
as
the way
well.
to the back. Yeah.
Matt Emery. Oh, careful, Matt. And he's still trying to serve that penalty. Now he's getting to go again. But of course he's got to be careful on that final sector again, because it doesn't count as a valid sector time. So if you get a slowdown penalty again, you're going to be hit the same again.
Yeah, you really are. So you gotta be careful for those, you know, about those penalties and you know those situations just piling on top of each other. You're just losing yet more time, more time, more time. Here's the battle for ninth, though. They are in danger of separating from the main peloton here, to use a cycling term, I suppose. But Simeon Lynch to driver's right-hand side, able to get the slipstream past, and does so quite comfortably, but Horston will let that happen. But these guys have to work together now to try and at least keep tabs on that leading pack.
Yeah, they've got to work together. They've got to try and just not slow each other up and use that draft to try and draft back up to them. But they are dropping back from Jamie Moon, unfortunately for them. So they're only just in that slipstream. Graham Carroll's showing a nose, so too is Sebastian. So they're all trying to just play a bit of brinksmanship here and just say, I'm here, don't forget about me. But Ellis doing a fine job at the front at the moment, having to... he won't be feeling the pressure too hard at the moment. I mean, yes, he will be under pressure from Sebastian, but it won't be like a last lap desperate to try and get ahead. It's just he's not going to try anything silly, so you can kind of pace yourself at the front there.
Yeah, I think so too. So, you know, despite Seb showing the nose and getting very close up to the rear bumper, Kevin can feel a little bit more secure because I don't think Seb is the kind of person to go for a risky move this early on in the race, that's for sure. Unless his hand is forced, of course. Here's the move for the race lead then, but it's not a risky one at all. So it's Kevin S. Jr. Just kind of letting him go at this stage. Yeah. He'll file in behind. So there's the swap for the race lead, but again, we can't make a big deal out of it because this will probably happen about 15 times before the final laps here.
We've lost Liam McNinch on this lap as well. I think he must have had an incident at the second chicane down the Mulsanne straight. So McNinch out, Draj out after lap 1. So not the best of starts there for those two. Of course, there's no free repairs in this series. It's if you get damage, you've got to live with it.
Yeah, and any little bits of aerodynamic damage here are going to hurt a lot. You know, you need every single bit of straight line speed possible. If you're a couple of kilometers down in a straight line, then you're not going to be making any forward progress, let me tell you that. Liam, I think, unfortunately, had a bit of a technical problem further down the order, so... yeah, that's unfortunate there. He's going to have to at least take the tow back to pit lane and then try and reconnect and see where he can get to in terms of trying to get into the points. But it's going to be a bit of a struggle for him to do so. Meanwhile, further back in the order, you got this sort of 3-car pack running around on their own. This is for positions, 12. You can 12, 13, 14. You can see it on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. So 3-car pack here. Of course, a lot of these, at least Fraser Williamson has suffered a slowdown penalty in that first portion of the race on the very first lap, which is not ideal, but at least he has a couple of friends around him right now. I did see just a swap for the race lead there. So Ellis Jr. back to the very front. So that was just a draft pass down in towards turn 1. So they're continuing to trade the race lead.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be seeing that all along. So, as you say, people might be thinking, why are you not getting excited over that? It's going to be happening quite a bit here in this race. So, yeah, in fact, there you go. There's the leaders. Now, interesting that Graham Carroll has dropped back a little bit. He's not completely in the back there. Now, he is still within that slipstream, so he will draft back up there, as will Isaac Price and John Robertson, but they're in danger of potentially falling back. Oh, we've lost William Martin now to the pit lane. He's gone to the pit lane, so he's the latest victim of Circuit de la Sarthe. But right now, Ellis Jr. at the front, and Job will just play the game.
Yeah, he will, and Kevin will know what the game is, so he might even give Sebastian the spot here. But maybe Kevin is just giving the draft to Jamie Fluke at the moment to see if Fluke can actually make it side by side with Job and cause Job to lose second place. But Job's going to be very well aware of that. He's going to duck back in line here. This is why having a teammate at the very front is so helpful, because you give your opponents pause for thoughts if you have someone friendly behind.
Here we go. Here's a replay. Oh, this is all too familiar. Hold your brakes, hold your brakes, hold your brakes. William did, but decided, do you know what? I'm taking the tow back to the pits, did William there for that one. Didn't look to have any damage to the car there, but forward to the back. Really, you need to just keep going, even if it is on your own. It does you good in the long run to just keep on out there.
Yeah, it is. And, well, you might pick up a couple of spots from problems a little bit further down the line for your leading pack. Kevin Ellis Jr. still holding on to the race lead. Here comes a run of speed, though, from Jamie Fluke, and Fluke's not going to capitalize on it. He's going to lift out and sit up behind Sebastian Job, but he could have easily made Job's life hell there by continuing on with the run and looking to make it side by side. Speaking of side by side, we've got more like 3 wide for the back into the king, which is not ideal. This is Matthew Dorrington, Fraser Williamson. Williamson gets shoved there towards the outside of Indianapolis, but well done to keep a hold of the car. And Williamson's not going to be too happy. Look at him, he's just trying to get the best arc possible into R&Rs to try and get the speed off. Flashing the lights, he's not happy about that, and I think he's quite just in thinking that.
Fraser Williamson, the feisty Scotsman, you do not upset him, because he will make his feelings known, and he's going for the inside of Porsche curves, and that's going to be, again, he squeezed Dorrington back, so it was, oh, well, you did it to me, Indianapolis, there you go, I'll do it to you at Porsche curves. They've got to be careful with that, though, because I saw in a race yesterday that I was commentating, somebody tried that on a straight and ended up making contact with the other car, so you have to be careful if you do give the little squeeze back.
Yeah, a little bit of give and take as far as that is concerned. Having a look at your leading pack once again, and Ellis has been able to get a little bit of a gap, actually 0.8 of a second coming across the line there, so Kevin Ellis Jr. Has been able to really put in a fantastic lap time there. Look at this fighting back in the pack, though. They're just squabbling at this point. There's no working together anymore in this trio. I think that's kind of been ruined by the little bit of contact that they had through Indianapolis, but they'll be able to get line astern coming up into Dunlop. And, well, it's Dorrington ahead from Williamson from Emery in that particular pack. And, oh, I think Fraser Williamson's got another slowdown penalty, it seems.
Yeah, or just got a bit sideways coming out of the chicane and ended up having to get out of it. But those drivers, they're 4 seconds off of Ryan Parkins in 11th, so that no matter whether they get to the front of that gaggle, that they're not going to be able to pull away and catch up to them. Now, it's an interesting thing that I've noticed on my timing screen. Fastest lap of the race is the man in 8th place, Jamie Moon, with a 4 minutes 5.2. So he's near the back of that queue there, And it just goes to show how much of an effect that slipstream has when you're further down the order.
It really does. You can gain a lot of time. We're running on board with Job, and he's going to get closer and closer. He's going to go for the race lead this time. How accommodating will Kevin Ellis Jr. be of that? Looks pretty accommodating. He has a gap to slip in behind as well, and will do so. So now Sebastian Job through the pointy end. But again, this is all just setup. This is all just a facade for now. This is all trying to work out where the best place is going to be on the final lap to be able to get the race win.
Yeah, it's getting yourself that position. I mean, we're only, 14 and a half minutes into the race as there goes Kevin back past Sebastian. So, again, these two just swapping places for fun. This is all about getting yourself in position for that final lap. And it is all the final lap. Oh, a little bit sideways further back there. So that's going to cost time and drop down Blair Mann to behind Bart Horston to 9th place. That's just put a little bit of a gap between Moon and Robertson. They'll have to try and get that slipstream again. There goes Job again on Ellis Jr. And back ahead goes Sebastian now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the slipstream games continue here at the very front of the field. This is the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain, round number 5 at Le Mans. This is our double points event. Of course, our only trip to a place outside of the UK in this season. So we'll be heading back across the channel for the next round of competition, for those final couple of rounds that we'll get before the very end of the season. But like we said in the pre-show, this could be the turning point, especially if, one of those front two cars has a bit of a problem later on and loses a couple more spots because, that's just amplified due to the double points. Yes,
absolutely it does. And the last thing that Kevin will want is Sebastian to be at the front of the front of this field at the end of the race here. It's chess being played at 160 miles an hour, is this. It's just that thinking man's race right now. So definitely they're all just getting themselves into position. They're all trying to just work themselves into a place where they can really then go for it at the end and really gun it on that last lap. So it's going to be a slow burner as this one. Stick around because the last lap or so will be a bit mad. But you are right, Connery. Yeah, we do head off to Donington next week and then Silverstone and Brands for the final round. So the only round outside of the UK. But these drivers, they love this track. They absolutely love it. They may not enjoy having to sit waiting, but it's that different style of racing rather than going hell for leather like your pants are on fire all the time. You've got to be patient. You've got to be calm and methodical about this race.
It's a real test of the mental state of the drivers. If you're going to crack somewhere, you're going to crack here. If you're going to get a bit too over-aggressive or a bit too ambitious, it's going to be here as well. And it really rewards a very calm state of driving, a very calculated mind, and you'll be able to usually get some good results here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. And both of these drivers at the very front, they can be very calm and calculated. That's why they're some of the best drivers in the UK as far as sim racing is concerned, and you might even say some of the best drivers on iRacing as well, due to their participation in the Porsche Esports Super Cup, which is the World Championship level competition here on iRacing, with all countries involved, not just the UK as it is here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. But it's a whole nother thing to talk about that, because at least for a handful of these drivers, they're having to focus on both this and the Super Cup as well. And that can be a pretty heavy workload, especially considering, in normal times for a World Championship, it's not unknown to put 40, 50 hours a week into the car.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, we had last year one driver put in 60 hours before the opening round of the championship. So, the amount of time, and these guys, pretty much, the World Championship guys, are professional. So they will be there will be ones that will push on and just put that time in. But right now, their focus at this point is those the drivers in front of them or the drivers behind them, wherever they are in this gaggle of cars. Looking at the positions gained, we still see this battle with Fraser Williamson. Craig Williams is actually caught up to the back of this one, so it's now a 4-car train, and they're trying to chase down Ryan Parkins here as well, and they are going a little bit quicker than Ryan in front of them.
Yeah, we're having a look at that platoon of cars for P12. I did see that message in the YouTube chat here, and well, it looks like there'll be a swap at the very pointy end of this little pack here. Fraser Williamson getting past Matthew Dorrington to lead those 4 cars around the circuit. Got Emery and Williams at the very back of this. So Williams, of course, I was scared that he wasn't going to make the grid. I think he was just doing us a favour and extending the grid time a little bit to be able to get our words in, shall we say. So, you know, he's still not made too much progress in this race. Of course, he started P17. He is up into P15. But maybe a couple more positions on offer here by the time this race is done, especially if he can sort out this group ahead of him.
Yeah, so see how they go. I mean, really, these guys now in this queue of 4 cars, they need to work together. As much as they'll hate to do that and they'll want to be the ones at the front, they need to work together. It sounds strange when you're all competing against each other, but if you're wanting the best result possible, you need to stop slowing each other down by fighting, which was what we were seeing earlier on between Williams and Dorrington and Emery. And they need to sort of put their egos to one side for about 10-15 minutes, work together, close up to the cars in front of them, like they are with Parkins, like they are with Lynch as well. Simeon Lynch, although he's just putting an alright time as he's gone across the line. But this group of cars, I mean, 4 minutes 6 for Fraser Williamson that lap. He's now leading this charge. He's trying to pull the rest of these cars along with him. Yeah,
that seems to be what's happening here. Oh, it's in Parkins. Parkins dropping down the order, and I think
Williamson's got to slow down.
Yeah. Oh, so multiple bits of drama happening, but Ryan Parkins. I think he just had a technical problem, and he's back now, but he's parked out in the gravel, believe it or not, towards Dunlop. So the number 25 car having a technical problem, and they're still stationary in the gravel at Dunlop. So that's going to be an interesting one. That's certainly weird, because usually when a car completely disappears from the track like that, usually that means they're completely and utterly gone, especially if it happens for 5 or more seconds. But there we go. You see something new every day. 23 minutes left in this race, and this leading pack consists of 9 cars at the moment. Blair Mann right at the very tail end of this one. So 9 cars, technically, still within a shot of the race lead, but you know, it's probably going to be the front 4 or so that are going to have any real chance.
Yeah, it's realistically, it's that front 4. Yeah, you're right there, Connery, and they'll be the ones that try to get that race win. But you never know. We've seen stranger things happen here on RaceSpotTV. I can tell you that group of cars, that second group of cars, is now caught up to Simeon Lynch. So he must have had a slowdown penalty on that lap as well. We're down to 14 cars. We started with 18. We're down to 14 here. Let's just keep it this figure now. Let's not have any more drop out. We don't want this to be a race of attrition. But everyone in this front group, they're all behaving, and they're all just trying to bide their time here. And this is what I said earlier, Connery. You need to be patient with these types of racing. It's almost that endurance racing mentality here in the slipstream. You don't go for the moves every time. You just hang back, wait, and then go for it towards the end of the race.
Yeah. And this is why we always say that patience will be rewarded in a race such as this one. But it does test our patience somewhat, because again, the only real battles that matter will only happen in the final 2 laps of this race. Got this little scrap going on deeper in the field as well for 10th on back, with Simeon Lynch, Matt Emery, Matthew Donaldson, Craig Williams, and of course you have another driver involved in that one, I think. That is Williamson. So things have been shuffled somewhat, and Williamson continuing to have a couple of problems. So we'll just have to wait and see how that continues. But I'm just reminded in this situation we are very... We know how to pass the time, shall we say, Paul. We had that event in Germany once, remember, where we had that long technical delay due to one of the driver's sim rigs having a problem, and we had to talk to the small group of people that were watching, at least live at the venue. There were more people watching online, but yeah, we had to take some time out to try and do that. So I guess this isn't a foreign concept for us.
You see, this is where the British Britishness comes out of watching Test Match Special and hearing those conversations that they have on rain delays, or even the say Radio Le Mans with their coverage whenever you have like a delay or something like that, or when there's just not the moves happening that you would love to see as a commentator. I mean, it'll be different next time out at Donington because we'll be on the national circuit there, and that's a difficult one. I think that Donington National is going to be very difficult to make overtakes at, because the only real overtaking spot that you've got there at that circuit is into that final chicane or into turn 1, because the rest of the lap you're kind of in one line in a groove around there. So that's going to be a tricky track. It's not going to be like here where you slip through and past each other every 2 seconds. It's going to be full on. Silverstone International. I don't think I've ever seen a race on the international circuit myself, personally. So I'll be intrigued how that works, because that will be a lot of slipstream down the Hanger Straight. And then it's that cut through from the loop, between the loop and the exit of Chapel, that we'll see there, that on the international layout, that it's going to be a different type of race around there. As there we go, Dorrington getting ahead of Emery. But Brands Hatch GP circuit, I mean, what a classic circuit. Oh dear, we seem to have lost Emery here. Please don't say that's the case. But Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit as well to finish off the season. I can't think of a better place to finish off a championship in a British series.
Yeah, it's definitely a track that's loved by many people, including myself. But you're quite right with Silverstone International, though. I don't think I have seen a race there. I've seen a race at the national circuit, of course, the other alternate circuit, of course. But the international, that's a different one. That's I don't think I've seen a race in the real world on that circuit either. So that's going to be an interesting one to try and wrap my head around, as these cars continue to have their scrap at the bottom end of the top 10, just outside the top 10 as well for these guys. So side by side between Lynch and Fraser Williamson. Williamson just about able to squeak his way through on the way in towards the Mulsanne corner. He'll leave the door open on the inside, though, and that's all Lynch needs to stick the nose in there and continue this door-to-door action on the way in on this straight towards Indianapolis. They get very close. They almost rub doors on the way down the middle of the road there, but Williamson be able to get some of the slipstream from the cars ahead and able to get fully ahead of Simeon Lynch there, as the cars 2 ahead of them go side by side. Craig Williams and Matthew Dorrington. So a lot of swapping going on here for these minor positions.
Yeah, Craig Williams will be loving this. To say that he started on the final row of the grid and didn't set a lap time, he is now up into 10th place right now. Good news, everybody, by the way. Ryan Parkins has made his way out of pit road and is back out on track. So he is down in 15th place. We've just lost Matt Emery as well, unfortunately, due to a connection problem. So that means that's why Matt disappeared when we were seeing that down the Mulsanne straight. But Ryan Parkins is back out there, so fix whatever problem there was there and back out running.
You might as well get back out there, especially if you're Parkins, because like you said, Emery's also out, so you can at least gain one position over him and get a little handful of points, I suppose. But yeah, some drivers have really struggled here today, and a lot of them, of course, involved in lap 1 shenanigans with slowdown penalties and some such, which really puts all the nails in the coffin simultaneously for the race as far as this event goes. So then you're having to fight for those minor positions like these guys are right now. This group of 4 heading their way through the final corner to complete lap 7 on to lap number 8 with 16 minutes to go. So at least we are well past the halfway point of this race. In fact, we're kind of getting in towards the final third of the race here in just a couple of moments. So Simeon Lynch down the inside at Dunlop gets past Craig Williams. Yes, he does. And Williams had a bit of a compromise line there through Dunlop. Could have been an opportunity there for Fraser Williamson, but able to cover that off.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, if you're wondering why we're focusing on this one, this is the only battle where they're really duking it out. Everybody in that front group of 9 cars, they're just staying in line now. They're all just poised and ready, waiting to pounce. So they're just holding place at the moment at the front of your field. If they do move, you can see it on the left-hand side of the screen. What was it? It's about 3 seconds covering 1st to 9th place. So you can see that on the left-hand side of the screen there. No real movement going on there. It's this battle here on the right-hand side, this battle for 10th, where there's been a bit more action. So that's why we've been focusing on that, everybody.
Yeah, so in this leading train, there goes Jamie Fluke, and he almost went for the race lead. So that is actually kind of an important little situation there, because now it cycles Joe back into 3rd place, so he won't have immediate access to go for the race lead here, at least for the moment. So now Kevin Ellis Jr. has a rear gunner, so this will really help him out.
Yeah, Jamie. In fact, Jamie's going to the lead. So yeah, so Kevin Ellis Jr. is obviously, once Jamie got past, Kevin must have obviously said, right, come on, Jamie, you take the front now. I've been leading this for a while. Let me get a little bit of slipstream, and we'll see how they get on. Of course, don't forget that these cars will be able to last an hour normally on a full tank of fuel, but they'll still want to be able to work together. Now this is where those 2 teammates will want to try and sort of swap between each other pretty much every straight. You try and get yourself broken away from the rest of them, but it's going to be very difficult with Job being right there. Matt Emery has returned back to the track, by the way, as well, so Matt's back out there on track in his distinctive colour. Oh my goodness, 4 wide!
Oh my words. Yeah, guys, just chill a little bit. Take a chill pill. My words, that's not what you see often. And oh, this is going to be a bit of a struggle there to try and make the corner for one of those cars. That was Simeon Lynch going too hot into Indianapolis, and well, loses at least 1 position. And now Dorrington might get himself past as well. These guys have been really going at it here for these positions. We can see 3 wide again here on the way in towards the Porsche curves, and Simeon Lynch right in the middle of everything there. Fraser Williamson will back out of things. He doesn't want to go 3 wide into the Porsche curves. That is not the best of ideas, but door to door they'll go instead, and Lynch is through and he's able to hold on to position. So yeah, somehow these guys are all still on circuit.
Lynch very wide through the Porsche curves, compromises the line through there. Now, if Craig Williams is smart about this, he'll try and run away there. Because of that mistake by Lynch in the middle of the Porsche curves, it just gives Williams a little bit of a breathing space to try and pull away. And if Lynch does get embroiled in a battle with Dorrington here, Williams could run away in 10th place.
Good, that's what he would be hoping to see in his rearview mirrors. Hoping that the 3 cars behind him really scrap together and lose a whole bunch of time. And, well, these guys have not been passing up the opportunities to have a little bit of a scrap. So that's going to be more likely than not, I suppose. Under 12 minutes left remaining in this one. Jamie Fluke still leads. I did see someone in the Porsche Twitch chat saying, I worry for Fluke every time he takes the race lead. Yeah, I think we get flashbacks to Snetterton.
Yeah, Jamie, the victim of the Exocet missile that was Josh Thompson, unfortunately. Of course, penalties were applied for that. You know, people think that they get away with things. No, they don't. They have race stewards after the event, not live stewarding during the event, but after the event will review incidents and they will apply time penalties where they feel that there is fault in these drivers. So that's why you may not see things happen in race, but it's after race where results can change. Oh, here comes Job. He's wanting to get past.
Yep, he is. Oh, he won't be able to squeak through. Oh, the two Apex teammates have to be very, very careful about negotiating those slipstream passes for the race lead, because if they mistime things and if they give Job the space, he won't be scared of sticking his nose in there to try and get second at least, and get himself back into a position where he can start to dictate the race a little bit more for himself. So there we go. Here comes the slipstream once again for Job. He's looking for a lane, but both the cars drift across. That's the normal line going into the entrance to the corner, of course, but Job is having the door shut in his face somewhat here.
Right, I'm calling it now. Isaac Price for the race win.
Oh,
with the way that they're all sort of starting to move about now and starting to make their moves here, that we're starting to get those mid-game moves being made now in this game of checkers. It's not chess, it's checkers. And look at it, the boxing him in, the boxing in Job, they're not letting him. I feel that if there is an incident, Isaac Price would be the one to benefit, although John Robertson, is going through and has made the move on Isaac Price at Indianapolis.
Here comes Isaac back down the inside of Arage. The heat's turning up here in the leading pack. Bart Horston looking to try and seize an opportunity to try and get by deeper in the pack. Look at the separation it's caused already. This pack is risking separating in two unless they get things together. No! There's contact deeper in the pack, though. That's the battle for P10 that we were watching so much and has given us so much fantastic action. They've had a tangle. But back to your leading pack, though, as Bart Horston and Isaac Price going side by side through the Porsche kids, and you can see visually how much it's separated this lead pack. They can't afford to have that happen coming into the final minutes of this race.
Well, I call one thing and then another thing happens, so that tells you because the commentator, it was Dorrington and Lynch, they've both taken a tour back to the pits. So here's the replay, and you don't go 3 wide into Indianapolis. They're gone to, Lynch has come down when there's Dorrington there. Did Dorrington have enough of a car alongside? That's going to be one for the race stewards, I can guarantee that.
It is. The stewards have been quite busy, especially with the amount of incidents that we saw at Snetterton. That incident that you talked about between Fluke and Josh Thompson at Snetterton in race 2 was, of course, judged Josh Thompson's fault. I don't think there's really any debate around that, and he had 10 seconds added to his race 2 time. So a lot of the penalties that we are seeing post-race have been 5-second time penalties, 10-second time penalties, and of course, if you get enough time penalties, you actually have to miss qualifying for the next event. I believe it's 30 seconds total in penalty time, and you will have to start from the very back of the next race.
Yeah, Simeon Lynch had that already, hasn't he, earlier on this season? I think it was last round that you had to have a qualifying ban. And, well, look at that. Ellis has been able to pull out a little bit of a gap here, but because of that, Fluke then gets a bit of a run, but Job behind him gets a bit of a run as well. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, this gets more and more intriguing by the minute here in this leading pack, and Kevin Ellis Jr. is hoping that maybe Jamie can play a bit of shenanigans here and try and give him a little bit more of a gap, but it's probably not going to happen here. It's very, very tough to break the draft here at take it to the south, and here comes Sebastian Job then to drive his right-hand side. Of course, Kevin in the race lead won't give him the luxury of the draft here. He's going to try and give his teammate the draft to give him the best chance to keep him ahead here, and he will do so perhaps into the second of the Mulsanne chicanes. It all gets a little bit congested back there. There's fighting further back as well between Blair Mann and some others as well. Here comes Sebastian Job then off the corner, and he has to try and get as close to the side of the car in front as possible to try and get that side, the minimal side draft that you get in these cars, but it's still an effect. And here comes the battle for the race lead then perhaps as well. They're all closing up on him. All so close in towards Mulsanne corner. Jamie Fluke on the inside, but does Fluke have the run of speed the long way around? Looks like he's been able to get good traction off the corner here, but it's always an uphill battle here for Joe, because Kevin Ellis Jr. is going to give the slipstream to his teammate all day long.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point I was going to make. Kevin Ellis Jr. moved right across immediately and was there saying, right, I've got you, brother, let's help you out here. And that's what's happened now. So Fluke has got that gap, and again, they're boxing in Job, but Job to the outside. That's brave. He's made it work, though, into Indianapolis, and here comes Carroll.
Yeah, great move there from Seb to be able to get into second place. And now Carroll's looking to try and get through as well to try and help his teammate. Job has actually locked up the brakes into Ardage. He's lost a lot of speed here. But is that going to be the lost position? We'll have to wait and see, because Jamie Fluke is so close here in the slipstream. You can see Kevin Ellis Jr. is just running for the hills at the moment. He wants these guys to continue on scrapping further behind. Here comes Jamie Fluke then. Of course he's going to make it side by side into the Porsche caves. Here comes 3 wide maybe into the Porsche caves. No, Carroll's going to back out of that. Job, long way around. Gives him the inside for the next apex. Someone's gone off in a huge manner up into the gravel there. I think that's John Robertson that's had a massive off there into the Porsche caves as these guys all get single file once again. But what an exciting sequence, and we'll have to see what happened to Robertson.
Well, looking at that time remaining, it's going to be close as to whether we get 1 or 2 laps here. That is going to be extremely tight, because they've been doing 4-minute 4s, 4-minute 5s. Business is picking up here in this race. You do not want to miss this one. Speaking of not missing it, that was Horston down the inside into Porsche curves, and that was Robertson into the gravel trap.
I think this will be the last lap, because they had 3:55 coming across the line there for Kevin Ellis Jr. Of course, iRacing does get a little bit of leeway, a couple of seconds either way. So that's not entirely confirmed. So yet more drama before the end of this race. I absolutely love it. But this leading pack, of course, it's strung out a little bit more. Of course, once they come down the Mulsanne once again, then they'll all be able to close up once again. But, you know, this is going to be a brilliant duel now, perhaps between Kevin Ellis Jr. and Sebastian Job. But, of course, there are multiple parties with their own interests looking to get themselves involved as well. So it might not be one of those two that wins this race. It might be Jamie Fluke. It might be Graham Carroll. If they all come together, it might be Bart Horst and Isaac Price. How about that?
Yeah, that's not a bad finish to the race, although Price is making a move on Horston. You've got Job to the lead. He's making the move early. He's calculating now. He's thinking, if I get to the front here, if Ellis gets past on the next part, I get past on the next. It's all a big game here now. Isaac Price back ahead of Horston, but Horston's going to get the run out of the chicane there. This is it. This is what we were waiting for. Your patience is getting paid off right now.
Yep, it is. Here comes Kevin Ellis Jr. to the race lead. Job will let him go. I think there's a little bit of lift out there from Job, but he has to file in behind and not let Jamie Fluke through. Jamie Fluke looking for second place, decides to stay in line. My words, it's a front 4 pack at the moment. There's been a separation basically down the middle of the leading pack right now due to Bart Horston's and Isaac Price's fight. Here comes Jamie Fluke then once again trying to go for second place just as we cut to the Ashley side-by-side cam. So I was about to I was about to complain, but here we go. Now looking to go 3 wide for the race lead perhaps. Oh, it's getting a little close there on the right-hand side of your picture. Here's the split screen of the 2 battles that we have in this sort of leading contingent here. And, well, we still don't know whether we'll be able to get one more lap or not. Sometimes Le Mans can be a little bit weird with how it decides whether we get an extra lap or not. So we'll just have to wait and see what type of flag is shown at the start-finish line here as they go 3 wide for the race lead. Oh my word, here comes Jamie Fluke, here comes Graham Carroll. It's all a big cluster at the very front here. 2 by 2 through the kink, almost 3 wide into Indianapolis. Sebastian Job leads. Fluke trying to fight on his outside, side by side between Ellis Jr. and Carroll as well. Now into Arnage. It's basically nothing to separate them. Oh, they've been into a tangle. It's been a big cluster, a big smash at the very front of the field. That is Kevin Ellis Jr. cycling down the order. That is Sebastian Job also hurt, wounded as well. And now we'll have to see who's in the lead of this race. It is Graham Carroll that leads this race. Battles on for second place though between Bart Horston and Kevin Ellis Jr. at the moment. So Ellis Jr. is benefiting a huge amount at the moment due to Sebastian Job coming off worse in that incident. But do we get an extra lap? And Kevin Ellis Jr. will definitely not be wanting an extra lap at the moment because it looks like he has a little bit of damage to that Apex Racing Team car. So an extra lap here will be awful for Kevin Ellis Jr. Carroll is pretty clear as far as the race lead is concerned. 10 seconds left remaining. What flag will be shown next? Will it be the white flag? Will it be the checkered flag? It is the checkered flag here. Graham Carroll into the final chicane. Graham Carroll coming out of the final corner to win here the special event in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. Carroll takes it. Kevin Ellis Jr. holds on to second, and Bart Horston gets his first podium of the season.
Wow, that was what we were waiting for, and unfortunately, we did end up with a contact. I'm sure we'll get a look back at that in a way, but my goodness, that was excellent racing, brilliant stuff. Graham Carroll getting his first win of the season as well. Tremendous from him.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, but what drama at the very front. It seems like this series delivers drama on, well, every single race at this point, especially at the front part of that field. We're waiting for we're waiting for a couple of stragglers to head their way across the line to be able to give us the results here. So that's Matthew Dorrington. We've got the driver of Ryan Parkins will be the last car to cross the line. They're coming up in towards Indianapolis now. But my word, Paul, we knew something that was going to happen there at the very front. We didn't quite know what, but I don't think we expected that. Yeah,
I mean, the question now is what happened there. What did happen between those at the front? It was Job and Fluke at the front that were trying to make it work. So yeah, I'm sure we will get a look at this at some point. But it's tremendous racing all the way through. Here we go then.
Here we go.
So this is into Indianapolis. Job just sneaks in front. Fluke is on the inside for Arnage. He's not quite alongside. Oh, yeah, that's. Oh, my goodness, there's not a lot between. Fluke isn't quite alongside enough, and Job, quite rightly, should be able to take the race in line there at that point.
Yeah, I think so. But it's such a small margin, though. You know, if he was just a little bit more ahead, then that would have been more of a chopping of the nose, and there would be no spin. But having a look, there we go, down the inside, Fluke. Ooh, yeah, that's.
That always happens there at an Arnage. It always happens. You always have that at least once in a race around this track, because Arnage is such a tight corner that you want to take quite a wide line in. But yeah, it's. I mean, Fluke will be feeling gutted about that. He really will, because he's not a dirty driver, is Fluke. He likes to race hard and fair, and he won't be happy with that that happening. He'll probably be thinking, why Sebastian chopped right across my nose there? Why is he not sort of giving that little bit of space? But when you're the lead car with no overlap, or the slightest of overlap there, he's entitled to go for the line.
Yeah, so this might be a turning point in the championship for sure, because remember, double points, you know, all the points margins are going to be exacerbated. So Graham Carroll wins. We got to repeat, these are the unofficial results because everything is subject to post-race review, and I think there's going to be a very lengthy post-race review at the end of that one. So Graham Carroll wins. Kevin Harris Jr. second place. Bart Horston, again, great performance. He's been a bit of a dark horse so far this season. He sits in P3. Same with Blair Mann as well, P4. Fantastic results for them. Same with Jamie Moon as well, 5th. We've got Jamie Isaac Price in 6th. Jamie Fluke falls to 7th. And Sebastian Job in the race where he would have at least wanted to finish in the top 3. Finishes in 8th place. So we'll have to work out how the points look after this one, because if Kevin Harris Jr. Is able to finish 2nd, and of course Sebastian Job in 8th, that'll be a big points difference in terms of just this event coming into the next round of competition. John Robertson in P9, Fraser Williamson P10 here today. And then you look further down the order, there's Craig Williams starting from 17th place up into P11. Not a bad day at the office for Craig at the end there. Matt Emery P12, Matthew Dorrington P13, Ryan Parkins P14, and then those drivers that unfortunately retired from the race. Simeon Lynch, William Martin, Liam McNinch, and Rafael Drage, who went out at the very start of the event. So those are your very unofficial race results here, but man, it seems like, you know, as always, the final lap of the Circuit of the South always delivers. We take a while to get there. There's a lot of setup. There's a lot of exposition, shall we say. But once we get to the climax of that final lap, you can't beat any of it. You can't beat it.
Yeah, it always seems to happen around here. And as we said, partway through that race, patience, wait for it. It will all happen at the end. My goodness, did it happen at the end there? That was incredible to see there. Be interested to hear the thoughts of a few of those drivers, and I'm going to say a lot of attention has been paid to that one instant. One positive from that, Bart Horston was in and around that top 8 all race long, was able to work with those drivers, and was able to get a 3rd place out of that. So great result for Bart.
Yeah, brilliant stuff indeed, and well, he's always been a pretty consistent driver there, you know, sort of hanging around the middle of the top 10, and finally breaking into the top 3. Fantastic stuff indeed. But we do have our post-race interviews ready, and we'll get to talk with the man that's finished in 2nd place here, Paul. I'll bring Kevin Harris Jr. in, but Paul, take it away with the questions.
Well, Kevin, first of all, 2nd place in a double points event. I'm sure you'll be feeling, well, you'll be feeling gutted. I can see it on your face there. You're not feeling 100% about that one. We'll get to what happened in a bit. But to start with, though, you're at the front working with. Well, first of all, it was Sebastian, but then Jamie came in to really sort of work together with him. Was there a lot of organisation between the two of you on the radio just to try and organise that and to keep Sebastian behind throughout that early portion of the race?
Yeah, we had to do quite a bit of coordinating that race. Obviously, with it being Le Mans, it's a great place to race. I've always had fun racing here, but it is really, really stressful. And that's really where teammates come into play. So, yeah, I mean, I was quite fortunate. I had Jamie up in P3 there. You know, and eventually could start making some moves towards the front. So it was basically me and Jamie with Seb and Graham, and then John was sort of our rear gunner at the back there. So, yeah, we had to try and coordinate it. The guys done a great job in qualifying of giving me the toe to try and get me pole position. It's really appreciated for those guys to sacrifice themselves to get me a couple of extra points, which is always good. And yeah, it's just in the race. It's just in the race. It's just so tough to try and do anything because everyone comes with such a big run that. Yeah, it's hard to try and coordinate anything the way that you really want it to go.
Well, I was going to ask, how hard is it to have that patience and to, in a race this length in this car, to just have that patience and know that, yeah, Sebastian's going to go past me, but I'm going to go past him. How hard is it to have that mentality rather than having that fighting race where I need to be at the front mentality that you would normally have at, say, like at Donington, like we're going next week?
Yeah, it's really tough because obviously from second on back, they've all got a huge run on the lead guys. So if you're in second, you have to almost weigh up your options. Do I have the gap to lift, and will the guy in third lift? Because obviously, if you don't make the move on first, then the guy in third might end up making the move on you. So it's really really tough. You know, coming into the braking zones, you're having to look into the mirror just to see what someone's doing if they are going to try a late dive or something like that. Luckily, at the front, it was pretty sensible for 95% of of that race, and you know, it made my job at the front quite easy. You know, I was quite happy having the back and forth with Seb. Obviously, I saw him drop back early to get that fastest lap, and kind of caught us off guard a bit there. And then we tried to get Jamie the fastest lap as well, and couldn't quite do it. So I think Seb will get the 2 points for that. But yeah, it needs a lot of self-control. You know, you're coming with such a huge run on the guy ahead of you that it's really tempting to go, but you know, you just need to keep on thinking big picture, and just keep it calm and know that it's a long race. It's 45 minutes around here. No one's going to go anywhere. No one's going to break away. So you just need to kind of take a deep breath and just stay calm.
And then, well, we have to, you know, the elephant in the room here. That last lap, then down into Arnage. Just from your perspective, what did you see? What happened there?
Yeah, it was a bit tough. I mean, obviously, I made the move on Seb into the second Mulsanne chicane, and then me and Jamie sort of boxed them in coming into Mulsanne, and then it just got a little bit difficult down in towards Indianapolis. Probably didn't play Mulsanne quite right, and they came in with a huge run. I was stuck middle three wide. Obviously, I saw Graham coming with a big head of steam as well. So, from my perspective, I was just trying to keep it clean, try and play it big picture. I knew that there was going to be another chance in at the Porsche curves. And I've just sort of stuck on the outside there into Arnage, and I just saw Seb get tipped around. I haven't had that much of a look at it, but you know, it's unfortunate. It was a great race, and have it end like that, not great, obviously. But yeah, I mean, if Jamie breaks early to not go up the inside of Seb, there's a chance he gets run over by Graham. It gets so tight into there, and the checkups are it's so easy to happen, even if the guy doesn't mean it. So I mean, it's hard racing at the end of the day. We'll let the stewards decide. I'm sort of impartial here at the minute. I'm just happy to get away with P2, to be honest.
Well, that's it. At the end of the day, double points race. You finished in second place. Sebastian's down in eighth after that incident. We're not going into who did what or anything. Look at the positives, though. You've got yourself that big chunk of points now going into Donington Park next time. It's going to be tough to overtake around Donington National, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always been a tough place to pass. You know, when we went there earlier, we had the two slow final corners, the two hairpins, so a move was possible. But now it might be a little bit more difficult. But you know, with the current package that we have, the dirt air isn't too bad, so it's quite easy to follow close. So yeah, I mean, ultimately got to realise who are at the front. The moves are going to happen. You know, Seb and Graham are ultra aggressive and love to get the elbows out. So I'm sure we'll have a good bit of fun there. Yeah, I mean, we'll just take it 1 week at a time. Obviously, it's as I say earlier, it's a shame what happened today. We'll see what the stewards decide and move on to Donington in a week's time, and just try and, you know, keep ourselves up there and keep ourselves out of trouble.
Well, I mean, I always look at the positives. You've got pole position. You got also got second place here today. Congratulations on that podium. Take it easy, Kevin.
Yeah, much appreciated, guys.
Oh, there we go. That was Kevin Ellis Jr., of course, one of your championship contenders, gaining a whole boatload of points here today, thanks to the ill-fated Sebastian Job getting tagged around by Jamie Fluke in the final lap of the race. Of course, you know, it's not the way, you know, you would want to gain points over your competitors, seeing them getting involved into an incident, but, you know, you can't think about that too much. You'll take the points and you'll head into the next round.
Oh, absolutely, you're going to do that. It's fantastic. It's what you need, and that's what Kevin needs to do.
Yeah, so we actually have the driver that finished in P3 waiting very patiently for us in the commentary booth, Bart Horston, P3 today, and well, you started in P12, so it was quite a long slog for you to try and negotiate your way through the pack and through the field. But how does it feel to finally get onto the podium?
I mean, it's obviously a great feeling. I think more than anything, just the amount of work I put into trying to get a bit more competitive on this car on iRacing, and yeah, just I guess all the hours and the time I put in finally kind of paying off. And I guess it's funny how at Snetterton I think I had some really good speed, but just the way things panned out didn't work too well for me. Whereas this time I think this is probably my weakest track of the season so far. Just lacking track knowledge, as I guess you'd expect. I know the British tracks pretty well, but Le Mans, yeah, one I think I was a step behind the 8-ball and the other guys in this series, and it was just difficult for me to, even with all the practice I did, to really put a good lap together. And then I think I had probably my worst qualifying session of the season, just making lots of mistakes, even though I got good opportunities behind the Red Bull guys in the tow. And I think more than anything, the best part of what I did today was just resetting at the start of the race and being patient and not going any faster than I could go, and just putting myself in the position I needed to be in when the end of the race came around.
Yeah, it's what we were talking about during the vast majority of that race, because it's less about the outright speed here, and it's about being in the right place at the right time. Were you feeling that you were able to do that in an effective manner, especially considering that you were able to basically pick off positions here and there throughout that race, get involved in that leading pack, and then maybe have a little bit of a challenge for more at the very end of that race? How were you able to keep calm? Because in some situations, drivers perhaps get in over their head there and looking for those easy positions, but then bottle it.
Yeah. Well, to be completely honest, because I think I was lacking quite a bit of confidence, and especially in qualifying, I made quite a few mistakes, like I said. So at the start of the race, I was just really focusing on what I could do right and, where I could go. And I knew when I got a break, I think I was in P10 or 11, and I think P10 and the train in front of the lead train had pulled away. I knew that was the most important part of the race. I had to put in some really consistent laps to make sure I didn't lose the tow. And I think that's at the end of the day where I gave myself that opportunity. And it's just more than anything, just staying consistent. And the good thing about Le Mans is you've got a lot of long straights where you can, tell yourself to relax, take a few breaths, and really just kind of refocus before the next corner. And I think, a few laps in, I was trying to calm, keep the adrenaline down a bit and not get too excited too early and then make a mistake or go for a risky move, and really just pacing myself and learning how to race, because I haven't really done a huge amount of racing around here. So again, just track knowledge, I don't really, it's not as instinctive like where I should be passing and defending and things like that. So you're kind of learning from the guys in front of you all race. So it's just, I think it was just a waiting game and learning little by little until I knew what I could do and what I couldn't do.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about in these sorts of races compared to normal. But we do return to normal for the next race in this season. We tend to regularly scheduled programming with the normal the 2 races, and we head to Donington Park. Is that a comfortable track for you? You did say that you seem most comfortable with the UK tracks, but is Donington one of your favourites or not?
Yeah, I do enjoy Donington. I've done a lot of laps there in real life. The national track is obviously difficult to overtake, as Kevin was saying, because you haven't got the 2 slow hairpins. It makes it a lot harder, and I think it's a different type of challenge on this track, especially on iRacing without the runoff and that. It's very much avoiding the off tracks and not dipping a wheel on the grass. So I think it's going to be a different kind of race. It's going to be a race where overtaking is going to be tricky, but I think if someone gets put out of position, then it's going to open up all sorts of different kind of opportunities down the field. It's going to be a close race, and obviously lap times are going to be super close around there. So I think it's just going to be a very different race. And yeah, I'm comfortable around there, but at the end of the day, I think especially on those short tracks, it's really a matter of who really puts a lap in on the day in qualifying, which can be super difficult to do when the lap times are so close.
Yeah, very competitive indeed. But thank you very much for joining us, and I'll leave you now to celebrate your P3.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, that was Bart Horston finishing 3rd place here today at the Circuit de la Sarthe, and I think that result has been coming at this point, Paul, because he's always been super competitive. He's always been there or thereabouts. I think he just needed a sort of a breakout race, so to speak.
Yeah, that's pretty much spot on there, Colin. just with how his performances have been. He's been solid there or thereabouts in that sort of top 10, pushing for a top 6 finish on occasions, things like that. So he really has got some good ability. Of course, as we mentioned during the broadcast, Formula 3 championship driver, so he's got experience of quite a lot of the tracks, as he mentioned. So he's one that's improving, just like Isaac Price I mentioned earlier on. He's one that's improving week after week. So we'll see how he gets on at Donington National next time out.
Yeah, I'm certainly very, very excited. The points are going to be closing up, shall we say. Of course, we need to get the calculators out after the race to see exactly who lies where, and of course we have to wait for the post-race review from the stewards as well to be able to judge what the points order is going to be heading into the Donington Park National Circuit, the 21st of February. So not long at all before we get that race underway. I will say, though, that because Graham Carroll finished in first here today, he's also still keeping his championship hopes alive. I think the top 3 are going to be a lot closer than we expect now coming into Donington.
Yeah, getting that victory is certainly going to help Graham's championship aspirations. Certainly help him try and secure a 3rd place in the championship and nothing else, and try and fight for 2nd as well. So yeah, it's going to be an intriguing end to the season, that's for sure, with 3 more championship races: Donington National, Silverstone International, and then that final round at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. I mean, Brands Hatch, what a place to finish the championship off here.
Just an absolutely brilliant final venue for what has been a brilliant season, but it's still not over. We still got those handful of rounds to go, and still a lot more excitement to come. So, yeah, again, this has been a brilliant season. You know, it's been enthralling to see the fight between Sebastian Job and Kevin Nash Jr., but of course we've had all of those other drivers get themselves into the fray as well, and I think there's still yet more to come, believe it or not, here in this series. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because I think I've seen everything already.
Yeah, we've had pretty much excitement all the way through this championship. It's what this championship has come to bring us, and you know, long may it continue as well.
Long may it continue, but we will just wrap things up now. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching the special event here for the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. Round number 5, double points race at Le Mans is complete, and Graham Carroll comes out with the race win, with Kevin Nash Jr. 2nd place and Bart Holston in 3rd. But next time we head back to Blighty and we head to the Donington Park National Circuit for the next round of competition. You don't want to miss it. Bye-bye.